welcome to week 12. You should have read chapters 39 through 40. In chapter 39, we get the summary of the fall of Jerusalem. We have a fuller detailed account in chapter 52 and then also in the 2 Kings 25 narrative. The gruesome details of Zedekiah's death is told in verses 5 through 7 in chapter 39. And this contrast, or this fits with what Jeremiah had told him in last week's text. If you surrender, you and your family will live. And then we read in this chapter just how they came to their gruesome end. In chapter 39, starting at verse 11 and following, we see that provisions are made for Jeremiah. Provisions and rescue are also made for that slave who saved him, Ebed-Melech. We see that the Babylonian commander knows of Jeremiah and is providing rescue for him. In chapter 40, Jeremiah is told, you can go wherever you want. If you want to go to Babylon, fine. If you want to stay in the land, fine. You can go, and they even give him provisions. And he chooses to stay in the land. He chooses to stay with Gedaliah. And I find that interesting because his whole life has been this message of those who are taken into exile will live. Those who are taken into exile, that's where the remnant will come from. But yet when he gets this chance at the end to go wherever he wants, he stays in the land. Starting in chapter 39, or 39:11, this is the same. You have two accounts of the same deal of Jeremiah being tended to by the Babylonians. So how was it that this Nebuzaradan knew of Jeremiah's ministry? I mean, he says very clearly in chapter 40, in verse 2, it says, when the commander of the guard found Jeremiah, he said to him, the Lord your God decreed this disaster for this place, and now the Lord has brought it about. And he has done just as he said he would. All this happened because you people sinned against the Lord and did not obey him. But today I'm freeing you from the chains of your wrists. So this is the Babylonians speaking to Jeremiah. So how is it that he knew of Jeremiah's ministry? That his messages his messages certainly seemed pro-Babylonian. So likely this made Jeremiah even hated all the more. Not only was he making people mad his whole life by telling them this disaster was coming and God wasn't going to save them, but now the enemy Babylon does come and they're treating Jeremiah well and saying, hey, we're going to give you provisions and treat you well and let you go wherever you want. So that probably made even Jeremiah more hated. At any rate, this man called Gedaliah is set up as governor over the land of Judah. And it seems like things are going to go well. People are settling down and they're building their lives and planting crops, and things are going okay until we have another political coup. Gedaliah was under Babylonian control, and he kind of had that same mentality of Jeremiah, just submit to the Babylonian leadership. But there was one named Ishmael who was from royal blood, and he felt like that Gedaliah didn't have a right to be in leadership. He felt like that should have been his role since he was of royal blood. So there's a political coup. Gedaliah is put to death, and there seems to be this little faction of good guys, and I'll just say the leader, we'll just use Johanan as to symbolize this group of people. They tried to stop Gedaliah being killed. They seem to be, working well with Jeremiah, but now they're in trouble because when Gedaliah gets put to death, and they know Babylon, the big guys are going to come squash this little rebellion. So they want to flee to Egypt. And they wind up taking Jeremiah and Baruch with them against their will. But before they leave for Egypt, I think I might have just said the wrong name, but anyway, Johanan has Jeremiah seek the Lord. He tells Jeremiah, seek the word of the Lord, and whatever God says we will do. So Jeremiah spends many days seeking the Lord, and this time he comes back with a message saying, don't leave, stay in the land and you'll be saved. Well, that wasn't the message Johanan wanted. He wanted God to say, yes, flee to Egypt and I'll keep you safe. But that's not what Jeremiah says, and it makes Johanan very mad. He blames Baruch for poisoning Jeremiah's mind, and in the end, They all flee to Egypt, and they take Jeremiah and Baruch with them against their will. And even there, Jeremiah acts out the symbolic act with stones to say, you might be trying to run from Babylon, but you're not going to escape their cloak of power, even that it will come even down into Egypt. Those who escape to Egypt, they still, chapter 44 explains that they're still practicing idol worship. And Jeremiah says they too will die by the sword or by famine or by plague.